See how in this interview she was pretty offended by the accusation that she was doing crack? It was like really, she took offense to it.
We don't do crack. We don't do that.
Think about it, yo, like if you really if you really learn psychology and break down shit and know humans, like, and do something and somebody said it to you, you would not like, I don't do that shit and walk off. You wouldn't get so like whenever you say something about somebody and they get very defensive about it, you like, I got your ass, because you wouldn't get so defensive. You wouldn't give a fuck if you never did it. You feel me? So good, you too. Welcome back to another video, man. Today we're going to react to why do they always overdose, you know, celebrity shit. Why do they always overdose, you know, when they get big, you know, they get gold status, you know, why does that shit always happen, man? We're about to find out though. Check it out.
Such a common story, I feel like it doesn't even shock us anymore when it happens. And it always feels like the same story. A young artist amazes the world with how talented they are. We fall in love with not anymore when it happens. And it always feels like the same story. A young artist amazes the world with how talented they are. We fall in love with not only their music or their acting, but we fall in love with them, their personality.
I think that's a question the whole world want to know, bro. Why the fuck do, you know, they get big as fuck, superstars, GOAT level status, and then it's like they throw it all away, man. That shit kind of sad, I ain't gonna lie.
They always seem so raw and honest. We relate to them. We love their quirks. And as they grow, they become part of our lives, part of our identity. And when you see them, it makes you happy. And as they do that, get the fame, fortune, respect, everything that they asked for, it seems like they always mess it up with drugs. It starts with the rumors, maybe a high performance, maybe a public meltdown. We see them, the people that we love, deteriorate and ruin what they built with drugs. And sometimes they try to get better and sometimes they don't, but then you get the news.
Matthew Perry,
Michael Jackson,
Marilyn Monroe,
Mac Miller believed to have suffered an overdose.
So today we're gonna look
so many stars, man. Shit crazy. It shouldn't even be that much.
at the most famous celebrity overdoses
At all.
and kind of dissect them a little bit from a drug nerd's perspective. And I've actually not done the research for this video, so we will be learning together.
You see, country music was always a part of the influence on my type of music anyway. It's a combination of country music and gospel.
So starting out this list chronologically, we have Elvis Presley. And I don't really think I need to introduce Elvis. He was famous back in a time where there was no blueprint.
King of rock and roll, quote unquote.
He
You already know the real
beyond
king.
royalty. He was a living god. He lived famously in basically Elvis world, in his own little bubble. And it seemed like he loved the fame. You see performances, and just looking through them now, the dude was charismatic. He knew how to perform and captivate an audience, and he loved it. But his downfall and eventual death is kind of a debated one. Depending on who you ask, it's a different story. I was told as a kid, he famously died on the toilet from a heart attack. But then some people say, well, no, he died on the toilet because of an overdose. Some people say it was a heart attack caused by drug use. But it seems like what is
I ain't gonna lie, I heard that nigga die on the toilet, bro. That shit crazy, bro.
debated is that he was a big fan of drugs, and drugs were a huge part of his deterioration.
He overdosed on the toilet or some shit.
Use of drugs, but he thought that they were legal drugs because
That's
they
right.
were all prescribed. But was there anybody around him who could
No,
convince him to stop?
no, you couldn't convince Elvis on anything. But he had taken them for a long time before I even met him. Even in Germany, when I met him, he was already taking uppers and downers and sleeping pills because he could not sleep.
This is the famous Priscilla Presley that he met when he was in Germany serving in the military. He was 24 and she was not 24.
Nah, that's crazy. That's fucking crazy, bro. 14?
I'm not gonna touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Sheesh.
But what Priscilla said is very interesting because she said before she even knew him, he was doing these medications. And this was early in Elvis's career. So it sounds like drugs were maybe always part of Elvis's career. What were these drugs? Now, based on context in the time period, I can kind of guess on what the uppers might have been. And they were probably either Benzedrine, Dexedrine, or Mephedrine. These were somewhat common uppers at the time. And what they are, Benzedrine is amphetamine sulfate, which is street speed. Dexedrine is dextroamphetamine, which is a major component in Adderall. And then Mephedrine is just meth. And these medications were given to people for a number of reasons. Narcolepsy, for weight loss medication, for getting energy and focus. It actually seems like, from my limited research, it wasn't super uncommon for military men to use them to stay up on shift. But I don't imagine that's why Elvis did them. I suspect one of the major reasons he used them is, alongside being basically a good way to wake up, almost like a very strong cup of coffee, these medications can often give you this feeling of euphoria and confidence that can almost give you a charisma. And I would imagine that sometimes he might have to do a performance or be in the studio, and maybe he's just not in the mood, and these medications can almost forcefully get you in the mood to be creative or charismatic or talkative. In fact, whenever you're seeing me on camera, most of the time I'm doing a version of these medications. I currently...
Basically, that shit kept him like motivated. Not like people rely on motivation to like get up and do shit, you know, when you don't feel like it or whatever, and that shit don't be working sometimes. So that shit like just made him do it. That shit crazy, bro.
Kind of a
It
relative
like forced him to get up and do it.
of these medications. But there's a huge side effect to taking these drugs, which is they can make sleep really hard. And that's where downers and sleeping pills come in.
You talk about how the doctors would basically give him anything he
Anything
wanted. So
that
they
was
were
there.
really enabling it, right?
Very much. He was Elvis. You're not going to say no to Elvis.
The way she said that was terrifying. So finding the complete
say
list
no
of
to
all the
Elvis,
drugs
that's
that
crazy.
Elvis took is really hard. He did a lot of drugs. But as a drug nerd, there's two medications that he seemed to like to use a lot that are very interesting. And they're antihistamines and laxatives, aka allergy medication and medication
Pills that make you, oh God, pills that make you shit.
Now, on the surface, you might think the dude might have had allergies and constipation. What's the big deal? Well, those two things combined kind of smell like a very certain type of drug addict to me. You see, antihistamines can be used for allergies. They can also be sometimes used for sleep. Benadryl is a good example for that. But when someone uses opioids, a common symptom of opioid use is an itchiness. And that is because opioids cause the release of histamines in the body. And that itchiness for a frequent opioid user can be very annoying. So some opioid users can use antihistamines to get rid of that itchiness. And the reason the laxatives are added in there is because long-term opioid use can cause severe constipation. And sure enough, my suspicion is confirmed with this 60-minute story from 2 years after his death.
After analyzing body tissue,
that's crazy.
they reported traces of 10 separate drugs.
Jesus H. Christ. That list is like all the legendary drugs of that era in like the 1900s. It's like he had them all. At the top, codeine and morphine. These are two opioids, so we have that. He liked opioids. Next, we have Quaaludes, the legendary ludes. And if you don't know what ludes are, they're sedative hypnotics. They were actually prescribed for insomnia, so they actually help you sleep. I think a lot of people think that they're like almost MDMA-like. They're not. They're very much a very sedative thing. But the reason why Quaaludes were phased out is because people were getting really, really, really addicted to them, and so they were replaced with benzodiazepines, which is the next one on the list, Valium. The hilarious thing is Valium, which is still used today, benzos are very common today, they're also very, very, very addictive and super terrible to get addicted to. One of the worst addictions. But Valium, used for sleep. Valmid, another sedative hypnotic, used for sleep. Placidol, or Placidol, I don't know, used for sleep. And then the last four are barbiturates, which again are old school medications used for sleep. So the dude definitely had a problem with sleep. It's also worth noting most of these on this list are also known to give you a pretty good euphoria or high, so. But the thing that I find very noteworthy about this is that a lot of these sleeping medications, and this is a thing common today, there's this idea that they are good for sleep, which is false. With sleeping medication, there's a bit of a deception with it because a lot of people who have insomnia are just exhausted because they can't sleep, and so these medications that they take finally help them get to sleep, and that's what they are good for, helping you get to sleep. But it comes at the cost of the quality of sleep. If we just look at one of these drugs like Valium that is still prescribed very much today, multiple studies show it is not good for the quality of sleep, especially for long-term use. It is not advised at all. Now, this isn't to shit on any of these medications or Valium. There's very good uses for those medications, but after literally years of dependency like Elvis did on these drugs, it reduces the quality of sleep, your lifestyle, your natural body's processes. After years of this, it deteriorates your body and mind to a really extreme extent, and that's exactly what happened with Elvis.
The road holds a stage, and each must play a part. Playing plus tax. I have no cause to doubt you.
Yeah,
But I'm really going hearing your lies.
that nigga high as fuck right now. God.
It's kind of sad. It's not super sad. Elvis, not my cup of tea. To each their own. I think he's kind of a. But let's finally get to how the old man died. And I just want to say I will definitely make a lot of people upset with this because it is a super debated thing till today. People on Reddit and will get super fired up about their opinion. Here's the information that is agreed upon. Elvis's fiancee Ginger was there the night he died, and side note, apparently he met Ginger when she was 5 years old, but they didn't start dating until she was 20 and he was 41. The more I read and watch Elvis, he's literally just Drake of the 1960s. Like it's the same person. Like they're
meeting people when they 5 years old, shit 14 and dating them.
both kind of almost fabricated people to parody Black American music and art. They're very similar. And they both love. Anyways, this is how Ginger recalls the night.
Elvis turned on television in his room to relax for a little while. At about 6:30, Elvis called downstairs for Ricky Stanley to bring up his packet of medication to help him get to sleep. Elvis took his packet of medication. So at about 8 o'clock...
Bro, you can see Elvis like blew up, bro, in terms of like he got fat. I ain't gonna lie. Yeah, he got big, bro, compared to, you know, the, I guess, terms of skinny person we seen when he was, you know, first coming up and shit, and when he got big, but he really got like, you know, overweight at this
I
point.
woke up because
That
Elvis
shit was taking a toll on him.
was restless, saying that he just couldn't sleep. Ricky came up and brought up another packet of medication.
A second packet.
Right. Elvis took that. The third time,
Maybe because of the drugs, for long time drug use. Is that the reason why? I don't know.
I was awakened again. Elvis was starting to get up,
so.
saying that he still couldn't sleep. I slept until 2 o'clock, and the bathroom door was still shut. So I opened the door, and that was when I saw Elvis.
According to the medical investigator, the body was purple or deep blue.
So just using that account, I can see how it would be a heart attack, but I can also see how it can be a drug overdose. The specific drugs that he was taking and that he obviously took a lot of that night are central nervous system depressant. Those sleeping pills relax your body essentially. And another thing that they cause that I've experienced firsthand from taking things like Valium is they cause a disorientation and a memory loss. You can often black out. I've experienced multiple times where you take it and sometimes you forget that you've even taken one, which can put you at risk at taking another one, forgetting that you've already taken some. And when you have a laundry list of very strong sleeping medications, that mistake of taking another dose can be deadly. And how someone would die on these is because they are depressants of the central nervous system, you become so relaxed and your breathing becomes so shallow that your body starts to lack oxygen. That can actually cause that purple or blue discoloration in the fingertips or the hands. And from Elvis's perspective, if he did die from overdose, he probably just would have experienced becoming so relaxed that he fell asleep and then just passed away. It's one of the more peaceful ways to die as far as overdoses are concerned. But yeah, I don't know. Could be overdose, could be heart attack. We could deduce, I just don't want to do more. This guy depresses me. We're moving on. Man, you know what doesn't depress me though?
You about to drop an ad?
Do it. No.
You about to drop an ad? I want to skip
Today's
your
sponsor.
I know you're gonna do
So
that.
what you in my
nigga promote
lion's
mushrooms?
mane, inoculate the word. Who's my?
This motherfucker. Alright, Whitney Houston, the queen.
And suddenly, raindrops.
If you're not familiar with Whitney Houston, as far as talent, she was like actually really special. She was a church girl. She grew up in church. And I say that for a couple reasons. One is if you know anything about Black church creates some of the best musicians in the world and has for decades. Just kind of the nature of how it works. I actually used to play in Black churches. I was bad. It was hard. It's intense. The music is very difficult to play and it often makes very, very talented people. And Whitney Houston is definitely an example of them. But the other reason I bring that up is that music in that church is very much intertwined with feeling the spirit, as it is with a lot of churches, but it just feels much different in Black church. I can't tell you the amount of times, as someone who's not religious, that I've teared up or even cried during a sermon because the music takes a hold of you and the crowd will break out as people jumping out of their seats, screaming, feeling the
They going
spirit.
crazy.
And seeing how that power
They
of
going
music
crazy
can
in that
affect
church, bro.
everyone around you seemed like it very much affected Whitney Houston and how she thought about really her purpose on this earth. It was to share her music.
Could you see the reaction on everybody's faces when you sang?
You know what I used to do, Diane? I would close my eyes like this and I'd sing. And when I would open my eyes, the people would be what we call Holy Ghost fired out. They would be in such spirit. I think I knew then that it was an infectious thing that God had given me.
She truly believed that the reason she was given this voice by God was to share that with others. It gave her a purpose. And as she became famous in her early 20s, it seemed like people recognized that. She wasn't just another beautiful pop star that got famous because she's beautiful, but she loved music and in fact was a musical genius. But how did drugs play a part in this? As time went on in her career, it looks like there was rumors of her doing drugs, but not a lot of like concrete evidence, but there was talk that maybe she was doing drugs. And more time passed, and then those rumors were confirmed. She started to lose a lot of weight, look really unhealthy, maybe a high performance where she just acted kind of strange. And eventually, it seemed like the major accusation of what she was doing was crack cocaine.
But that's not just thin.
Whitney, I know you didn't do no crack, bro. I know we ain't go out like that, bro. Like, come on.
No.
Ain't got no, we went on cocaine, bro.
What is it? Diane, tell me. Do you know?
It's scary thin.
Did you really know?
No, you know.
Thank you.
Anorexia.
No way.
They've written it.
No way.
Bulimia.
No way.
That it's because of drugs.
No.
Whitney dying. Crack rehab fails.
First of all, let's get one thing straight. Crack is cheap. I make too much money to ever smoke crack. Let's get that straight, okay?
Nah.
We don't do crack. We don't do that.
Okay.
Crack is whack.
To borrow a Black American phrase, a hit dog is gonna holler. Yeah, she was doing crack. But technically she wasn't. And before we get into that, let's just go into where did this drug habit start? It seems like it's a pretty popular discourse to blame her husband, Bobby Brown. Apparently, a lot of people say that he introduced her to crack, and when they started to do drugs
I remember Bobby Brown.
Yeah,
he a drug head for sure.
Right?
I remember that
but
shit.
I actually found evidence of the contrary. According to one of Whitney's best friends in the entire world, Robin Crawford, who actually was a bit of a part-time lover for her, Whitney admitted to doing drugs when she was 14 years old.
The who and the what?
Cocaine being one of her friends in the entire world, Robin Crawford, who actually was a bit of a part-time lover for her. Whitney admitted to doing drugs when she was 14 years old. Cocaine being one of those drugs. And from other reports I'm reading, it seems like it was pretty common knowledge that on her way up, she never really dropped the drugs entirely. It was kind of part of it, and she didn't really stop. But why would someone who's clearly so talented feel the need to do drugs? Now, of course, we don't know Whitney. There could be a million of reasons, but one of them that I think is probably very likely is for the exact reason Elvis did stimulants as well. Cocaine is a different molecule than Adderall or meth or any of the stimulants that Elvis was doing, but they're all classified, these stimulants, as sympathomimetics. Now, translating what that means very basically is that these drugs simulate the fight or flight in our body, that reaction you have when you might be, getting chased in the jungle or whatever, right? And for creatives, especially like Whitney, who have a lot of pressure on themselves for achieving very highly, stimulating that fight or flight is really beneficial. Like I said earlier, you can get these feelings of confidence or charisma, but on top of that, and this is a really big thing that I'm kind of reflecting on right now.
It's like, what I noticed with this shit, it's like short-term like rewards type shit, but long-term disasters. You know what I'm saying? Long-term effects. Like, in that moment, you might just create a euphoria. You really feel your talent. You just feel good, but that shit comes at a lot of shit afterwards.
It stops second guessing a lot. Like, for me personally, I think a lot about why I do ADHD medications. And obviously, I have ADHD, but sometimes I feel like the real reason why I do it is to stop myself from being so hard and second guessing everything I do. Like, I have this habit of I'll film a section and then refilm it and then refilm it and then be like, oh, I just didn't use the wording, it's not interesting enough, I need to change my inflection here, and I'm so hard on myself. But when I take a stimulant, a sympathomimetic that
it's like I do, and me when I record it, like I don't I don't re-record, but it's like I get that feeling of like even when editing and shit, it's like you want to keep you like whenever you take drugs, like say like I smoke weed and shit, but like you just flow, bro. You're not second guessing yourself. You don't have anxiety. You don't have like this fucking just dread of like, oh my God, I hope I'm not good enough. You don't overthink as much. You feel me? Like that, and that's what I feel like what a lot of us creators like we overthink a lot. It's just this thing in our mind, like, are we good enough? Are we doing good enough? And you got to learn to silence that. But a lot of people go the route of taking drugs, which is not good. You need to learn how to do it on your own. You feel me?
It's that fight or flight. What happens is I don't second guess myself, because when you're in that fight or flight, you don't have time to. Your body goes, just make a decision and do it, right?
Facts,
and that's
yeah.
exactly what these medications or drugs like cocaine can do. And I'm imagining that's exactly how
But like, I don't know about ADHD medication, but I know when like rappers smoke and shit and all that, you just flow. It's just like you don't second guess yourself. It's just, and you feel so confident in it.
He felt
So I can understand it.
Especially someone who's so clearly
relate to that.
talented and grew up in such an environment that was so harsh because she was so talented and it had so many expectations. It's counterintuitive, but I get it. But as far as linking her drug downfall with her relationship with Bobby Brown, that was famously toxic, I think one, blaming Bobby Brown is tired, and she was a grown woman, she made her own decisions. You don't blame her on other people. But I do think that it's something that should be focused on. Because I hate to be cliche, toxic love is a legitimate drug. So many of us can relate to the feeling of losing sleep, having anxiety, losing the ability to eat, to function and have your job and maintain friendships. You literally, in a toxic relationship, have all of the symptoms of a drug addict. And what happens when you try to separate from that toxic relationship? You have heartbreak, aka withdrawal syndrome, and that can have just as much of a severe toll on someone's health.
Yeah, love is just as much as a drug. That's why they say love is a drug, man.
As actual drugs.
They don't be having these sayings for no reason. Love is a drug. It really is.
Truly. And I also think it's really worthwhile to mention that drugs,
it makes you the highest of the highs, and it can make you feel the lowest of the lows.
Toxic love are not the reason why people have the downfall necessarily, but it's the effects of those things on the later parts of people's lives. A good example of this medically is what causes meth mouth is actually not just direct meth use, it's often meth use that is associated with other habits. So someone who's addicted to meth is not eating right, which can affect dental health. They're staying up for hours. They are not brushing their teeth. They are living in unsafe, dirty environments. That is what links to meth mouth. It is not actually just the meth. Meth doesn't cause that alone. It doesn't. Meth, I think, can reduce saliva in the mouth, which can affect, but it's really the rest of the environment around it that causes that.
Yeah.
Same thing with Whitney's health. Was it cocaine, or was it the lifestyle she led with cocaine and toxic love? Now to finally get to how Whitney ended up dying, and also how I mentioned earlier that she didn't technically do crack. Do you see how in this interview she was pretty offended by the accusation that she was doing crack? It was really, she took offense to it.
We don't do crack. We don't do that.
Think about it, yeah. If you really if you really learn psychology and break down shit and know humans, if you didn't do something and somebody said it to you, you would not I don't do that shit and walk off. You wouldn't get so like whenever you say something about somebody and they get very defensive about it, you I got your ass, because you wouldn't get so defensive. You wouldn't give a fuck if you never did it. You feel me? So
crack is whack.
Well, I actually have an old acquaintance that helped me understand this a little bit.
I grew up in crack house.
When Whitney would talk about what she would smoke, right? She'd be like, no, I don't do crack. Crack is whack. I did freebase. Was there this idea back in the day that freebase, that's not trashy, that's cool, while crack, that's whack?
It was a party favorite to them. I was told, my grandpa, he's from that time, so they would tell you they was more partying. They were partying. Freebase was that weed and crack put together. So she was just she wasn't, it was
weed and crack put together?
Partying. They were partying. Freebase was that weed and crack put together. So she was just she wasn't, it was what we call that, rose. It's she wasn't really just freely smoking crack. She just.
So it was a different perception. Back in the day, it was they didn't see it as the same.
It was just a party. It was oh yeah, I just got a little head change. And then it worried motherfuckers can't afford their drugs. They got addicted. People couldn't come off. And it just went to another level.
Thank you anytime, Bubba. Call me anytime.
Okay, thank you, man. Okay, peace.
Anytime. He from LA.
You see,
man.
Whitney wasn't
I know that.
smoking
Actually,
crack,
from
she
anywhere.
was smoking freebase. And this might be a little bit hard to explain, but I'm gonna try my best. So regular cocaine hydrochloride, the stuff that you snort, you can't smoke it, and there's a lot of reasons why you'd wanna smoke it. One of them being that it's really hard on your nose, or your nose might be clogged up so you can't snort. The other reason is that when you smoke it, it hits harder and better. So if you wanna smoke cocaine, you have two options that you can chemically do to that cocaine to make it smokable. One of those is making crack. And crack is the process of making smokable cocaine using baking soda.
Okay,
But
right,
the problem with crack
right. Crack is cocaine. Okay, that you can smoke. Okay.
is that it's often kind of dirty. There's a lot of baking soda in it. It's often cheaper because there's a lot more baking soda in it. And so there's, back in the day, was
Oh, you ever heard
perception
snorting baking
that
soda, man? That shit crazy.
crack is kind of like cheap and like for poor people. But there's another option if you want to smoke cocaine called freebasing. Now the process of freebasing cocaine is actually the exact same chemical process. The end product is the same, but you have to use a lot more like chemistry to do it correctly. But the final product is very, very pure smokable cocaine, often much more expensive, and was, back in the day, seen a little bit classier. That's why Whitney took so much offense to saying, you smoke crack, because she didn't, she smoked freebase. And actually in a later interview with Oprah, she confirms this is exactly what she did.
No, we were lacing our marijuana with base. With base. Yeah. Yeah, we didn't want no crack. We didn't no crack stuff. We weren't buying like $20 jumbles. Yeah. We were paying money. Yeah. We were buying like an ounce and ounces. We would have our shit. Yeah. You know, for like. But you were freebasing cocaine. Basically. Yeah. Yeah. And our weed. And weed. And we weren't doing it glass. We weren't doing like pipe smoking. Yeah. We didn't get that far. No.
Whitney's final days were sad. She was reported as being kind of disheveled and mismatching clothes. Her hair was soaked. And eventually she was found dead in a hotel bathtub. And the cause of death is kind of a complicated one.
The final cause of death has been established as drowning due to atherosclerotic heart disease and cocaine use.
Atherosclerotic heart disease is essentially just a lot of plaque in your arteries, and science shows that heavy cocaine use over years can build up plaque and cause this. So after years of cocaine, her circulatory system was getting fucked. And what probably happened is that she was in her bathtub smoking some freebase or crack or whatever it might have been, and she probably had a bit of a heart attack or some type of heart problem, causing her to lose control or panic and started to drown in the tub. And this is what often cocaine overdose looks like. It is not a kind death. It is essentially, you get so high, but you start to have basically like a panic attack on steroids until you actually have a heart attack. And some people just die from that. But it sounds like her death was during this attack. She drowned while
she just so happened to be in water and she drowned. Fuck, that's a horrible death, bro. Fuck.
It probably was not a very kind death.
Yeah.
Sad one. This whole video, what was I expecting?
So this
is a fucking depressing video.
It is a depressing video. Yeah, I'm over this thing, man. I might check out this channel.
Finally, someone of my generation, Mac Miller. Mac was loved. Bestie Josh, the guy who helps me with music on this channel, he fucking loves Mac Miller. I never really liked him that much. And that was the thing about Mac. You hated him or you loved him. And it wasn't because he did controversial shit or nothing like that. It was really for two reasons. One of them, he was a swaggy white boy. It's easy to hate on a swaggy white boy who raps. That was my complaint of oh, he's a swaggy white boy, try hard. Which is so ironic because I was such a swaggy white boy. Total hypocrite. But the other thing about Mac is that he was very easy to read. He was very transparent, and it was corny at times because it was endearing, but he would say some shit that you could tell he thought he was cool while saying, but it was just kind of cringe. He would say some shit oh, she bubbling, we fucking, then you cuddling, baby, where the fuck you been? Don't wanna tell you she in love with him, so we ain't saying nothing. You could probably tell she bluffing, cause she kissed you with the mouth, she gave me head with my concussion.
Hey, nigga, what?
The inner swaggy white boy still calls me. But the cringe is exactly why people loved and love Mac. It was just so relatable. He was active on social media. You saw his sense of humor, his group of friends. You saw cringy ass freestyle raps that are just ugh. We all did that shit. We all did cringy raps. We all rapped about the same stuff that Mac did, which was fame, women, money, drugs. And if you're not of my generation right now, maybe you're younger or older, and you think, oh, that's so stupid. No, what was so refreshing about Mac and that whole generation was that it felt like honesty for the first time. Everyone knew that celebrities loved drugs before this time, but it was this secret that no one was supposed to talk about. But this generation, like Mac, they were finally honest of like, yeah, I'm a young man and pretty much my life is trying to get laid, stealing people's bitches, drugs, and fame and money. And like, yeah, that's, yep. And so to begin the journey of when did Mac, we don't have to wonder. It was part of his charm. You knew that he was doing drugs the whole goddamn time. Now, early Mac talked about getting drunk with his friends and smoking weed or whatever, but pretty quickly he got into using drugs. And I use the term drugs generally because it was just kind of drugs, generally. But there was one drug that he seemed to really take a liking to early on, that's also a very legendary drug in rap at this time, which was lean. So lean is a very legendary...
Yeah, a lot of rappers do lean and shit, bro. They be going crazy. And I'm already know what you're gonna say. That shit causes liver failure.
Legendary drug. And this is what it was. So you had a styrofoam cup often. That's what people like to serve it in. And then you would put Sprite. Then you would add Jolly Ranchers for more flavoring. And then it was time for the active ingredient, which was a blend medication that was promethazine and codeine. Now this is a medication that is given to people as like a cough suppressant to help them go to sleep for general pain, aches and pains, and just help people with sleep generally. But those two medications combined are really funny, especially when we remember Elvis. So if we just start with the medication codeine, it's an opioid. It's generally, I think, seen as a bit of a shittier opioid. It's not as euphoric, it's not as strong, but it's also weirdly enough a very, very, very ancient, like thousands of year old drug. It's not like a chemically, you know, made in a lab. Codeine is found in the poppy plant. Like it's one of the major active components, morphine and codeine. So it's cool. But as we know about opioids, it has these side effects like constipation. It has the side effects like itchiness, right? This irritability. And so that's where promethazine comes in. Now, promethazine is, as you'd guess, a very strong antihistamine. So it battles some of the side effects of the codeine, of the opioid, just like Elvis used to do back in the day. But the other thing that promethazine does is it's called an antihistamine, but it's called a first generation antihistamine. And what first generation antihistamines are, they're antihistamines, but they have a strong side effect of sleepiness. And in this case with this medication, that's actually intended. It causes people to be very drowsy and fall asleep. That's why people like that medication. And for reference, a second generation antihistamine is like Zyrtec, which helps with the itchiness, with the allergies, but it doesn't cause sleepiness. And so in this lean cup, people would be sipping this and it would kind of just get them high, and I've only seen it in the wild one. I think it was like, I saw it in one studio I worked in like Carson. Now to kind of get into the mind of why rappers like Mac used this lean stuff, because it is kind of weird. Like, why do you want to get sleepy at the studio, right? One, it seems like Mac in his interviews talks about how it was just honestly the pressure of the lifestyle that was just exhausting. It was also just the people shitting on him all the time on the internet. Just kind of put a lot of pressure on him, and it finally, with that medication, allowed him to just exist and do what he does without having to think about all the external stuff. But to extrapolate even more why I think the rap industry at the time was really into it, besides just fashionability, I think it's also worth saying that a lot of rappers had a lot of traumatic childhoods, had a lot of like unresolved shit, and then got all this fucking money. And opioids sometimes allow you to not have to deal with that. It's kind of like benzos as well, where it's like you don't actually have to self-reflect because you don't care. You're just like, let's just fucking exist, and I'm actually okay with the moment right now, finally, right?
Yeah,
but you know,
I get it.
That's my fucking opinion.
No, I think he's right. That sounds very logical. I understand that shit. I think he's right.
Now, as time went on with Mac, his addictions got worse, but the difference was that there was no secrets behind it. You could hear his music, him talking about it. And the weird thing about it is that as you listen to his music as he progressed, you could feel the self-reflection happening. Like these verses were, instead of just, yeah, bitches and drugs are fun, it went from like, bitches and drugs are fun, but I think there's a hole in my heart. Like he'd say things like, I think I see a fucking
halo. About to meet my maker, brought a double cup of Drano. Some soda for the flavor, uncontrollable behavior with some psychopathic tendencies. Lonely as your neighbors with the bitches, he got special needs. What's in my denim fees? I'm Kennedy on ecstasy. My flavor from the nature, need an acre for my recipe. They got my soul, but I don't let them take the rest of me.
Funny because it's like you're hearing a young man see that there's a problem, but he hasn't put the puzzle pieces together yet. And that was one of the things that really solidified Mac as someone that people loved, because you saw that self-reflection, you saw that growth, and you saw him evolve into like a deeper, more advanced, complex artist and person. And Mac kind of almost became a success story. After a while, he started talking about trying to live a more sober life, and it seems like he actually did that. It seemed like he was kind of on the up and up. And
tell me he relapsed, bro. Fuck.
He also found love with Ariana Grande.
They be so close, man.
It looked like a really...
I hate to hear stories like that. Like they was coming, you know what I'm saying? They was starting to realize their ways, and they was about to change, and then they just relapsed and died. That's
beautiful relationship.
I hope that's not what happened, bro.
And it just seemed like he was doing it. He had really resolved whatever that hole was. But then they broke up. And then news kind of came out that maybe it was a bit of a toxic relationship, that she was a support system for his sobriety and that his vices. And it seemed like after that breakup, he spiraled, got a DUI, did some kind of morally questionable stuff. And I think in retrospect, it looked like he was what my mom always said to me as a kid, as he was a dry drunk. Meaning the underlying issue for why he needed the drugs and the women and all that kind of stuff were still there, but he just didn't indulge in the drugs. And as a lot of people in that situation, and I'm so projecting because I sadly identify with them really hard, find love in relationships that are beautiful and think that that's the missing hole that they need, right? And it's not, sadly. And with Mac, when Ariana Grande, like that hole was reopened and he just had to get re-exposed, it seemed like he went right back to the habits, if not worse. And the last few nights of his death was just, you can read the text exchanges. This creator did a fantastic job just reading them all out. Basically, he hits up one drug dealer. It's a laundry list of stuff, but essentially he's asking for opioids, benzos, and coke, okay? That drug dealer was only a few minutes late to like their agreed time, and so he hit up another drug dealer who sold him an even longer laundry list of drugs. Again, opioids, benzos, coke, and then also sold him a hooker. And then the first drug dealer ended up showing up, so he also bought those drugs as well. And then he was found dead, overdosed by his assistant. What killed Mac was different than Elvis or Whitney. It wasn't after years or decades of drug use, your body deteriorating. It was a young 26-year-old guy who took some pills, and one of them ended up killing him on accident because it had fentanyl in it. Of all the drugs that he had, one of the pills that he bought from the drug dealers were what we call blues or M30s. And these are oxycodone pills that were basically so widely prescribed and so famous that people eventually started counterfeiting them. And in Mac's time of death, basically doctors were not allowed to prescribe oxys as much as they used to, and so the illegal market came in, and you had drug dealers who basically would press in fentanyl into these pill presses to make them look like real M30s. And the thing is it wasn't fentanyl that killed him, right? It wasn't just the fact that he took fentanyl that killed him. It was the fact that the way fentanyl works as far as dosing, I've explained this many times in other videos, but it's so potent per gram.
I think I heard, yeah, you can't, bro, you can't have like none of it basically. Like if you can only have like a tiny bit of that shit.
That if you do not have the proper
what's his name? Rich Homie Quan too, fentanyl.
Equipment to mix the pill mixture to dose it correctly. What you have is some pills that are correctly dosed, and then some pills that you just didn't mix right will have a little bit too much fentanyl in it, and that little amount, because fentanyl is so potent, causes an overdose. That's exactly what happened with Mac. It seems like the assistant said that he found him on his knees in kind of a praying position on his bed, kind of insinuating that potentially he knew that he was dying and he was kind of praying to not die, which I'm not saying could not have happened. I can see a world where that is what happened. But I think another very likely thing is that's just generally when you do opioids and you get really, really high, you kind of fold over like that. I would imagine that he was probably so high he didn't even think to pray. He was just like feeling it. And then as with overdoses with opioids, you just kind of fall asleep until you die. It's not a painful death. I think that is something that brings some peace. He didn't die painfully. That's the video. Fuck, that was dark. I was gonna do like 10 more celebrities. Like I was gonna do like Heath Ledger and Michael Jackson, and I had so many people in different like ways. But like Matthew Perry and some of like the more recent overdoses are kind of like interesting. So if you want to hear story, like comment below if you want another series like this. Also, it's my birthday today, and really wanting
this
lately.
nigga gay. Niggas,
subscribe to my Patreon, please.
Alright, that's my end of the video, man. If y'all enjoyed that video, man, you know, a little different from like the internet drama and all that shit. I want to start switching up stuff, doing more gaming videos and shit. But man, if y'all appreciate that video, please share this video, comment down below, man. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all. I'm out, man.